A very pleasant evening to you out there. Thank you for joining us on another edition of the program National Talk on ECWA Television International. My name is Joyce Jakarta and we're live on Facebook and YouTube at ECWA Television International. Tonight we begin with the wave of coup in African countries amongst national issues. Mr. Douglas Francis, a public affairs analyst, will be joining me to discuss these issues. Good evening and welcome to National Talk.
Yeah, good evening.
Well, let's begin with what is trending. A lot of reactions have trailed the wave of military coup in Africa, with the latest in Gabon, where Gabonese army officers under the aegis of the Committee for Transition and Restoration of Institution, CTRI, sacked President Ali Bongo and placed him under house arrest and took over power in the oil-rich Central African country. The leaders of the coup in Gabon have named Republican Guard Chief General Nguema as transitional president. In the last 2 years, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Sudan, and Niger have since faced this coup. Mr. Francis Douglas, Gabon is one of the African countries with, it was named recently as the 5th large oil producing country. Yeah. It has about 2.3 million population, and when you check their export, you see oil, manganese, wood, as well as palm oil. Unfortunately, they have about 33% poverty rate as well as 28% of unemployment, and this is according to the World Bank as well as the African Development Bank. Indeed, it is of concern because just recently African leaders as well as the ECWAs have been up and about due to the coup in Niger, trying to see how that they can dialogue to restore democracy in Africa. And just within the week, we saw again another coup which hit Gabon, and the concern is not about what to be done. A lot of people have been asking where next, and I don't know if you have some concern about this wave of coup that is taking place in Africa.
Okay, yes, first of all, I think there's a mistake somewhere. The new leader in Gabon, people address him as a general, but he's actually a colonel because he's in charge of the presidential guard. And for what history tells us, he has been part of the system. Yeah. In fact, he served the late President Omar Bongo. And when, he came on board, the younger Bongo came on board, he was transferred for diplomatic assignments in Morocco, I think Algeria, and some other nations. And he came back and he was appointed as the head of the presidential guard. But that as it may be, the major issue here is there was an election. And he ran for the election. He perceived won, despite criticism from his opponents, especially the opposition party. And one of the key things they were mentioning was that the election was not free and fair. It was marred by, controversies, manipulation of results, and so many things. And the military felt otherwise, that, okay, the election is not free and fair. Let's take over power. We are not saying that what the military did was right. But first of all, look at the trending issue. Politicians, sorry to say it, elections in this part of the world are never free and fair, because it's like the ruling party will always want to do it winner takes all. And they put a lot of things in place. You have the security is with them, the electoral umpire is with them, the financial muscle is with them. So they use all kinds of, mechanism, all kinds of powers to control the election. And because of that, you find out that the opposition is left with little or nothing. Now, Gabon as a country, of course, is rich in terms of a lot of resources, especially oil. But the citizenry are living in abject poverty. And it's like a monarchical system. Since the early leader, which is Ali Bongo, ruled the country for more than 42 years. He died in 2009, and the son took over. And it has been business as usual. And you discover that he has a lot of wealth slashed in a lot of countries. Now, this coup, looking at the coup, from what we saw and what we've read, it's like the people of Gabon are happy with the coup. Because you could see the coup leader being celebrated.
Yeah.
You could see mass celebration
On the streets.
on the streets of Libreville. And what does it tell you? That the people are tired of the Bongo family. They are tired of the dictatorship.
But there's a trending video that I would like us to quickly watch of the ousted president Ali Bongo pleading that his friends and then other people should shout,
Make noise,
yes,
make
make
noise.
noise. So I would just like us to quickly watch that video.
Okay.
I'm Ali Bongo Ondimba, President of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing happening. Nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you. Thank you.
That was the ousted president Ali Bongo of Gabon, and he kept saying make noise, and I remember just before the election, social media was shut down in that country.
Yes.
The border was closed, and he didn't even allow international observers to come and monitor the whole thing. And I'm just wondering, so how do people shout? We know how that social media is like a key factor in all of that, and I'm just worried that just look at the celebration that has been going on the street among the military, even the citizens, like they were literally celebrating the current leader now of the military, and he's there asking for help. And like I said earlier on, the conversation now is not about what next, because we've seen how that the ECWA president, which is also the president of Nigeria, and other world leaders have actually condemned this coup, looking at the unconstitutional means of getting power and all of that. But look at the celebration, a family ruling for about 55 years. And so the concern is who is next. This is what the conversation right now is all about. But what do you think is the root cause of this coup? Like for Gabon, this is not the first time. This is, I think, the third attempted coup, and the first was in 1964. And it was really not long. It didn't live long because there was immediate intervention by France because of interest, of course. And then in 2019 too, when the president, the father of Ali Bongo, was really sick and almost incapacitated, but still on throne, there was also another attempted coup, but France also intervened in that, and it didn't work. This is the third one, and look at the celebration. What are the root causes of this?
Okay, I think there are certain indices we should also look at. For the issue he's saying, make some noise. The question is, who will make the noise? When the people are living in abject poverty, the people cannot even fit 3 square meals a day. So who will make noise? And also look at it. If you look at it, France, which is the colonial masters, have a lot of investments in Gabon. But there is a wave of development. Now, let me take you back a little. I think in 2016, the same Ali Bongo contested with a Chinese citizen. I think Pinchao contested. The election was marred with a lot of controversy. In fact, I remember then the Chinese government had to intervene to an extent. And at the end of the day, a lot of issues emerged. And controversially, he won the election. Now, if you also look at it, there are some emerging powers in Africa, not just France. You have the Russian, you have the Chinese, who are also trying to see that their presence is felt in Africa. So, if this coup haven't taken place, and the so-called foreign powers he's relying on are not making noise, are not replying to his noise, that tells you there is more that meets the eye. Now, the French country, because they have investments in Gambia, they will make noise. They will want to condemn the coup. But what about others that also want their interest to be represented? Will they do that? Now, coming back to what we are saying, whose interests? Now, remember that 2 or 3 coups that have taken place, the masterminders or the current beneficiaries of that coup are the leaders of the presidential guard. The current president, the guy that took over in Niger Republic, was in charge of the presidential guard. In Burkina Faso, the person that took over was also in charge of the presidential guard. What is it telling you? That these people are insiders. These soldiers know the secrets of these leaders, and they know what is on board, and they feel the pulse of the masses. You understand? Though we know that military regime is by force, but for civilian rule is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's a choice. But for military, they use the guns. So we are not saying that the coup is the best for Africa. But then let us look at the causes. What is responsible? Now, if these leaders in question were good to their masses, they were doing the right thing, they were providing the necessary dividends of democracy to the citizenry, I don't think this thing will happen. Because if this coup, like it's been portrayed, the coup has taken place, the citizens are celebrating, they are enjoying. In fact, they are even, you could see the first time a coup leader plotted a coup, soldiers were carrying him up his, you understand? Saying that, they love what is happening. That is to show you that this coup is directly from the people. Because why? The current leader or the deposed leader was not carrying the people along. And look at it. The president, the deposed leader, is not even feeling fine. He suffered stroke in 2018. And since then, he has been struggling. Just like we have a Paul Biya of Cameroon, over 90 years old. He's still there. And let me tell you, the coup in Gabon is a lesson to sit-tight leaders. You could see the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Immediately,
there's already reshufflement going on.
Immediately.
And he retired, I think, about 83 senior military officers.
Yes. So, you see, the coup in Gabon is a message. You understand? It's a message. Because if elections were actually conducted right, if the people were carried along, then these things wouldn't have been happening. And look at the people responsible, young officers. So, the coup, though, is a kind of reducing the democratic tenets we have all over the world. But if you also look at it, what is democracy? And what is about governance? If you have a term limit for 2 terms, why don't you do 2 terms and go and rest? There was an interview that they interviewed the deposed leader. What did he say? He said, well, that for term limits, if you enter...
It's not sexy. That's
just imagine. If for 10 years, you have 2 terms limit of 5 years for 10 years, are you telling me within 10 years you cannot do whatever economic blueprint you have for your country? Come on. And if you even look at it, because of the interest involved, that is why you see those that are interested in this coup are the ones celebrating. And beside what we see out there, there is an undertone in Gabon that we don't understand.
And you know, my concern is looking at the celebration. Of course, coup is not something that anybody should support, but drawing from the celebration, obviously the people have not felt good governance.
Yeah, they've not felt the impulse of
democracy. Like they've not been able to enjoy even the dividends of democracy, because if there is good governance, then there won't be issue of coup taking over. In fact, that's the basic that the people want. When you go to Rwanda, in terms of comparing to other African countries, you can tell that there's actually development.
Yeah, of course,
but beyond that, there's what people need to feel. Democracy is about the will of the people.
That's right.
Not individuals' will. And I think that is what the people or the citizens are actually asking for. But by the time leaders continue to impose themselves, manipulating constitution, and no wonder we have been seeing this wave just barely a month after the Niger coup, we're having another one, and no wonder the fear right now. Who next or where next? I just want to quickly ask you, drawing from the concern that people have asked, let's bring it back home where we are in Nigeria. Do you think this coup is likely to affect Nigeria?
Well, one way or the other, definitely it will affect Nigeria. Because you recall when there was a coup in Niger Republic, the president talked stuff. He made it so much that, in fact, he threatened the Nigerian authority, the Nigerian government, that, you know, they will move by force. But when it happened in Gabon, you could see that the president, his posture, his composure is not the way it was in Nigeria. And let me tell you, he's sending a signal. He's sending a signal that, look, it is not always the best to manipulate elections. It's not always the best to win election and not carry the people along. Though the coup might not take place in Nigeria, but it's sending a signal that the masses still have the control. The masses should be carried along in terms of governance. You understand? Because if the coup took place in Niger Republic, which is just our next door neighbor, and the president is talking tough, and it's happening in Gabon, and the president is not showing a kind of action the way he showed in Niger Republic, it shows that a message has been sent that look, it might not be business as usual. It can happen to anywhere. And let me even tell you something. Do you know that between 38 or 29 that this coup took place and today, there have been a lot of jittery, even in the security agencies. You understand? And you could see the chief of defense staff and chief of army staff calling on soldiers that they should be loyal to the dictates of governance in the country, of the civilian rule. That is to show you that directly or indirectly is affecting them. And for the national interests, for Gabon, the people want good governance. They want development. Probably, maybe as the day goes on, we will be able to dictate or we'll be able to find out if the coup actually in Gabon is for personal interest or national interest. Because I'm sure the coup leaders, they said by Monday the president will be sworn in. And from there, maybe he will release his timetable for transition government, or the opposition is calling that there should be a recount of the election.
All right, let's talk about lessons to African leaders, because we've seen trends where people in Africa continue to suffer. Look at Gabon, population of just 2.3 million people, and with all the wealth that the nation has, yet it has people that are suffering, people living in abject poverty. And it's not just in Gabon, even like in our country here, we're talking about 133 million people living in poverty. And look, drawing from the removal of the fuel subsidy, a lot of people have been thrown even into poverty. We've seen how that issues around palliative and all of that have been on the discourse. Like a lot of people are saying, we are yet to feel anything. We've seen how the FEC have come together to try to talk about it. We saw how that governors have been given some forms of palliative to share. But you know, right now in Nigeria, it's either you're rich or you're poor. And people have been asking what parameters are they going to use to know, because this is the country when it comes to data, we're not too good with that. So how do you share it? Already we're hearing some states have been distributing, others they are yet to. But at the end of the day, of what impact is it? Because if you get one measure of rice and you have family of 10 or 15, after eating it, even if you have a family of 2 or 3, after eating the rice, what happens next? Because the transportation is still high, the goods in the market is still above 200% of what you used to get them. So how can this sustain the people? Now, drawing from the issue of bad governance and how that people want change, how can African leaders, like what lesson can they draw? We make reference to Rwanda. We saw how that Paul, the president, who ruled for like 27 years, is already reshuffling his cabinet. The same thing with Cameroon. Paul Biya, who had ruled for 41 years, is also trying to reshuffle. Like, is that enough? Because, like you said, some of the sit-tight leaders are already been shaken, and obviously from some of the decision or policies or changes that they are making, you can actually tell. So what lessons or can our leaders or perhaps political class draw from this coup?
I think for Africa, we are sitting on a gold mine. But one of our major problems is bad leadership. Sit tight. And this is necessitated as a result of foreign influence. Because whether you like it or not, let me refer you back to late Muammar Gaddafi. At least if you look at Libyans, they lacked nothing. And the citizenry of Libya, they had everything. You are a graduate in Libya, you have a salary, you have a house, you have a car. But because of certain influence from the West, they ensured that the man left. And since Gaddafi died, the center could not hold for the Libyans. Now, coming to the mainstream Africa, our major problem with our leaders is greed. That is just the problem. We are talking about Rwanda. Look at Congo. Congo Brazzaville. Denis Ngosso has been there for more than 40 years. He only left I think around 1990 to 1993, I be 2000 to 2003, when, no, 2000, for 6 years, when he contested and lost to his former prime minister. And he came back, and since then he has been there. So name it. So, but the thing there is that African leaders should know that governance is for the people. And once you are a leader, you ensure that you provide the basic dividends of democracy. You see, infrastructural development is key. Now, Gabon, as a nation, I have one of my friends who is in Gabon. He said, look, electricity is not a problem. You understand? But take, for instance, in Nigeria, what's the state of the power supply here? You understand? Even Rwanda, that we are talking about their leader. Look at Rwanda. Go to Kigali. You won't believe. Kigali is one of the fastest growing country in Africa. Go to Kigali. Look at development in Kigali. Even Kenya, Nairobi, they are developing. But what do you say about Nigeria? So there are two ways to this. One, sit-tight leaders should know that, look, if you stayed long and the masses do not want you, why don't you give way? You get my point? Give way. Then secondly, development of the nation is very paramount and key. It's very, most of these leaders we are talking about, like the Omabongos, they are the Nizungosos, and the rest that we are talking about, what's the level of development in their nation? And imagine, I remember late Mobutu Sese Seko. He was richer than Congo Brazzaville. So you can't be a leader and your citizens are living in penury. So if they want to take corrections or lessons from the Gabon coup, they should know that there needs to be a reform. Just like when we had the Arab Spring. Most countries in Arab, when the popular uprising started, if you recall, in Tunisia, Morocco, what did they do? There was massive reforms in their countries. So our leaders, especially African leaders, should bring our reforms that will direct benefits to the citizen. All
right, let me just draw your attention quickly to the statement by credited to the president through his media aide. While joining other world leaders to condemn the coup, the president said power is in the people, not barrel of loaded gun. And I just want to ask, we are a democratic nation. Are we really benefiting? Do we have the benefit of democracy? Some people say we are a democratic nation, but we are having civilian dictatorship, which is even worse than even the military dictatorship and all of that. Are we? What do you make of this statement? Vis-a-vis we being a democratic nation, are we actually enjoying the dividends of democracy?
Well, I wouldn't want to, you know, maybe draw a line with what the spokesman of the president is saying. But we are all Nigerians. We live in Nigeria. We say things on a daily basis. When you say yes, government is in the hands of the people. In the case of Nigeria, is governance really in the hands of the people? In
fact, I heard a public affairs analyst faulting even the ECWA leader who doubles as the president of Nigeria, saying that even the process that brought him to power is frauded, and he was mad with a lot of irregularities, and you can just liken it to what happened in Gabon just after the election. The president didn't even celebrate. Immediately there was military takeover because the process was frauded. And on what ground are you saying that? It should be, power should come from the people and not a barrel of gun, barrel loaded with guns.
So my people have this adage, charity begins at home.
True.
So when your home front is a disaster, your home front is not looking up to what the people expect. How do you go out there? Look at the president of, what do you call it, Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire. He ruled for 7 years, went for another 7 years, and now he manipulated the constitution last year in October, and he's ruling for another 7-year term. And look at Abidjan, how far have they fared? So look, African leaders, especially the president, you should look inward. I think this, one of the lessons in Gabon is that you should also go back to the drawing board. And you talk about palliative, what are we seeing? What are we seeing? Look, my problem in this nation is that we see recycle the same thing. When President Muhammadu Buhari was on board, what did he say? He said the oil subsidy, he's bringing palliative to cushion this effect. My dear, how has it affected you? What have you benefited with this palliative? And look at what is, it's just the same. We keep repeating the same thing. But the major solution is let the infrastructures be put in place. Do you know why people japa in this country? It's simple. Because the system, it is the system. In developed nations, some of these countries, see, there are basic things that the people need. They need water, they need lights, they need housing, they need shelter. These are the things we are begging.
Indeed, our leaders must show bad governance, corruption, and even imposition, because these are some of the issues that are actually lying low, and they need to do all that is within their power to actually shun these. Quickly, let's come back home. Ahead of the 2024 governorship election, there have been a lot of friction, talking about Edo now, political crisis between the deputy governor as well as the governor. When I was watching the recent play out between the deputy governor and the governor, I was just wondering, this is someone you refer to as an elder brother,
yeah,
but you know, politics, a lot of things happen, and we saw how that during the colloquium of the state as well as Delta, the Deputy Governor Philip Shoaib walked out because he said his media aides were stopped from entrance, and he walked out of that. And immediately we saw how that the state actually sacked his media aides, saying that they do not even recognize that. So for some reasons, Shoaib, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, as well as Obaseki, have been on the media, if you ask me, for the wrong reason, since June, when the Deputy Governor took the state to court about issue of impeachment, that tried stop his impeachment and all of that. What do you make of this happening between the two? Okay,
say it when two elephants are fighting, the grass suffer. But I want to draw you back to the crisis in Edo State, the political crisis. Shoaib was of APC, Obaseki too was of APC, and during the first tenure, the both of them were there. And because of one thing or the other, I think the fight between Obaseki, who was a political son to Oshomole, he defected to PDP. And also, Philip Shoaib also accompanied him to PDP. And you recall that Philip Shoaib and Oshomole are from the same zone, I think, Edo North. Now, the key thing is political interest. Philip Shoaib, the deputy governor, is interested in governance. He's interested in being the next governor of the state. But along the line, there was something we discovered, or some information that got to us. Shortly after the 2023 general elections, you know, the State House of Assembly were set up. And of course, the governor was trying to, you know, bring out who becomes the speaker and some other principal officers. And from what we heard, that the deputy governor, maybe because of his interest, was working at a cross purpose with the governor. I think the governor got hint of it and he was not happy, and he's now trying to pay the deputy governor back in some of the things he did to undermine his governance. But looking at it, for me, the way the deputy governor is going about it, it's not the best.
You know, my concern is when things like this begin to happen, or we see it reoccurring, it's more like shifting focus from governance
to shifting the goalposts. Of course.
So what should be done to end this reoccurring friction?
Well, you see, Nigerian political system is a very funny thing. I take you back when Akinrolu and his former deputy Ajayi, prior to his second tenure, it was the same thing. The deputy governor then, Ajayi, was interested in contesting. And what happened? They had an issue. In fact, to the extent that it got to the House of Assembly, the House of Assembly attempted impeaching the deputy. And because the deputy was a political stronghold, what did he do? He fought his way back and he was not impeached. But after that, the center could not hold. So in the case of Edo, you see, my biggest worry is the party, the PDP. Now, the governor himself is not even finding it fine. He doesn't have a sound footing in PDP with his former state chairman, that is Dan Igba, who is now the zonal chairman of the party. So there is also another issue of Obaseki and some of the elders. And look at this Philip Shoaib. So if care is not taken, it will consume PDP in the governorship election. So they need to go back and put their house in order. Philip Shoaib, yes, you are interested in the governorship. There are better ways of going. There are better ways of approaching it. There are better ways of handling the issue. And for the issue of the anniversary during the Thanksgiving, that, you know, he was walked out. You know, because of the saga, he came in, and the security detail, you know, there are some security men that are overzealous. You understand? Maybe probably he felt that, okay, since the deputy governor has been undermining my principal, let's teach him some lesson. So these are some of the things that played out. But the major thing here is they should put their house in order. Because if they continue this political, I call it political disgrace, the PDP will suffer. Already you are aware that PDP as a political party has some challenges since they lost the presidential election.
Talking about PDP, I would like us to talk about one of the PDP member, which is also a member of the G5 team. And, you know, he's one person that a lot of people refer to as one that speaks truth to power, one that is not scared, or like a lot of description. I remember during the ministerial calling, he was one of the persons that received the loudest upload. I was like, wow. But, well, before we talk about that, I would like us to go on a quick break. When we come back, the phone lines will be open for our callers to call in and add their voice. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice. Thank you so much for staying with us on National Talk. In case you're just joining, we have been discussing the wave of coup in Africa as well as other national issues. I've been discussing with Mr. Francis Douglas, a media practitioner as well as public affairs analyst. Thank you for doing justice to the topic so far.
Thank you.
Well, before we went on the break, before that, our phone lines are now open for you to call and add your voice to the conversation. Before we went off the break, I was talking about someone that a lot of people have referred to as fearless. Yeah. And some people have been wondering, oh, why haven't his party suspend him or even expel him? He has said a lot of things. He has done a lot of things that is enough for him to be suspended. Yet we see him still in the media, in the governance and all of that. And recently, one of the spokesperson, I think the spokesperson of the Atiku PDP campaign team came out to say that, see, at the right time, we are going to suspend, talking about Nyesom Wike, the former governor of Rivers State. And, you know, recently we saw how that PDP made him part of the campaign team for the Bayelsa governorship election, and then the APC also made him a team member of the same the South governorship election. And a lot of people have shared some reactions, worry, why is the same person here and this same person there? And recently in an interview he said, nobody can suspend me. Before I even accept this ministerial position, I wrote to this, I wrote to that, I wrote to that. But even though the PDP national body are saying we didn't receive any letter, maybe you'd like to comment on Nyesom Wike, the one that received the loudest upload. Yeah,
yes. Nyesom Wike, I call him the lion of PDP. The simple reason is this. You know, Wike is a governor, former governor of Rivers State, and he had a lot of resources at his disposal. And you know, he contested, and they were pro-South. They are the people that, as politicians, that are saying power should go to the South.
True.
Now, of course, he felt slighted, he felt betrayed, he was not happy when he lost.
Hello?
Okay, I think we have a call. Hello, good evening. Thank you for calling.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Hello. What's the name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from ECWA in Lagos State.
Oh, thank you for calling. Please make your contribution.
From ECWA in Lagos State.
Okay, ECWA in Lagos State. All right, go ahead with your contribution.
I want to talk about... okay. what I'm saying is that about PDP issue. Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
PDP have a very big problem. Hello? PDP have a very big.
Okay, I think you might have to call us back. Please, when you call us, kindly turn down the volume of your TV or move away from it so that we can have a smooth conversation and save time. Please go ahead.
So Wike had a lot of resources at his disposal and he felt betrayed that he lost the election. Now, after the election, there were inter-party crisis where he asked the then presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to remove or call for the removal of the national chairman. And Atiku felt no. And it brought a lot of crisis. They had their G5. And the G5 insisted, stood their grounds, and they called their bluff. And after that, the center could not hold. Now, Wike, for the crisis in PDP, let me tell you, Wike is a financier. Wike is a dogged fighter. Recall that after 2015 election, Wike were one of the key players in PDP that held that party. In fact, even the Atiku Abubakar was not a member of the party. So he held the party, so he knows the intrigues of the party. So for now, because, and one other thing that Wike did, which a politician could do, was that what did he do? He romanced the current president. Because he felt that if the power should not go to the north, it should go to the south. And he decided to pitch his tent with Tinubu. And when Tinubu won, Tinubu applauded him, appreciated him, and made him a minister. So, and let me tell you, you see, relationship also matters a lot in politics. Now, there's a coalition. There is a togetherness. He has given him a ministerial appointment. So he has two feathers. One, he's working for Bola Ahmed Tinubu because he's the president, not by party affiliation. Now he's also a member of PDP. But looking at the party, let me tell you.
We have a caller. Hello, good evening.
If we talk of Wike, Wike wanted PDP to remove Santos. You understand? So that we save way for him to become president. I was making out that he's too big to be vice president, but today he's a minister. So a vice president position and minister, which one is higher? So who is fully who? Then the issue of Obaseki and Shuaibu, I think all the politicians they agreed with. Shuaibu, you have served as a deputy governor for 8 years. I remember Osomole, who is your godfather, is from Edo North. He has ruled for 8 years. Now you want to still come back to rule as the governor, whereas we have the Eastern people, which is Edo Central, for them to take the ticket. Now you still want to come and become a governor after 8 years in office. You serve as a chief of staff to Osomole before Osomole had over into Obaseki to rule. As a vice deputy governor. Remember that when they were having that crisis, Shuaibu himself, he said he don't want to be godfatherism. He don't want godfatherism in Edo State. Now, why can't you, as a comrade, respect that Edo State and allow the people mandate to be? It's fine. He has a right to contest as a governor. But in a fair play, why not step down? You have ruled for 8 years as deputy governor. And moreover, this is coming from Edo North, which is Osomole, to Obaseki, which is from the east side. Now allow the Isha people to rule, so that there will be equity. It's the same thing that is playing in the national, where you are having the North will rule, the North still want to rule, and still want to rule. And we will still stand to oppose that. Why not? It's the same thing that is playing out in the state. Just the same thing that is happening in Kogi State now. Yaya Bello is going out and is bringing his cousin, which is still Igriama. So why are the politicians fooling the masses? So they are just finding a way to cause division in the people in DC. At the end of the day, they will still have their own general meeting and DC. So most of their problems, they know how to resolve it for themselves.
Thank you.
So it shouldn't be a burning issue or whatever they are displaying on the television, just from my eyes for us to say nobody is quarreling with PDP. So for Wike, I think Wike has a key. He has some secret that the PDP are afraid of. That is why they don't dare to do him anything. So, as your political analyst and earlier said, Wike is the bulldozer of PDP. So, whether they like it or not, it's better than every man beg him to please keep the secret for us. We will not disturb you, and be better for them. Because if the idea Wike will further diminish PDP, and that will be the end. After all, we have alternative, which is Labour Party.
Thank you.
We are ready to go with them.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Someone said that it's like there's something about power. Once you test, you want to. No wonder we have people at the National Assembly spending
recycling
20-something years. They keep recycling themselves. People kill just to be there. Thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts. And look at the issue of Wike. Like I said, a lot of people are saying, can't you just suspend this person? Look at the confidence, how he expressed himself in an interview, saying, nobody, he dares anybody that want to suspend him. On what ground? He was quoting the Constitution. You have an agreement that this is how you're going to, this is what you're going to work with, and you went against it. And the confidence he speaks with is something else.
No, I think what Wike is doing is not far-fetched. If you recall, when Yaradua Abi Obasanjo in 2003. I think
we have another caller. Okay. Sorry to cut you. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for calling.
Okay.
What's the name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
I can hear you. What's the name and where are you calling from?
Calling from Lagos State.
Okay.
Nagboa.
Okay.
I'm Mr. Jacob Emmanuel.
Okay, Mr. Jacob, go ahead with your contribution.
You see, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My own contribution is that what we are facing in Nigeria, what is happening in Gabon today, we need it in Nigeria, because 8 years plus of the APC government, we are tired of it. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Just move away from your TV.
Plus of APC government, we are tired of it.
Okay.
So that is my own contribution. What is happening in Gabon, we need it in Nigeria. So justice must be done in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. That's his own perspective.
Of course.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, so what is happening in PDP is not new. Of course, if you recall, Obasanjo's second tenure, he appointed members of the opposition, and even Yaradua appointed members of the opposition. And when he did that, the center could not hold. But one thing I look at is that Wike wants to have a grip of PDP. That is why he's doing some of these things. Because 2027 is around the corner. And of course, if this romance maybe gets to an era where there will be disagreements, he will have a place to fall back to. Recall that all the structures of PDP are under his control. He brought the governor, he brought the 3 senators, he brought 11 out of 13 members in the State House of, in the National House of Rep. And in the State House of Assembly, he brought 32 over 32. So he has everything at his, and he has the resources. So what he's trying to do is...
but I'm not...
Hello? Yes, go ahead. Oh, we lost that call. Do well to call back. Go ahead.
So I think he's trying to have a grip of the party, you understand, as well also remain with the current government. That is what Wike is doing. And I dare you, just like he said, he boasted, nobody can expel him. Is it the Atiku Abubakar that is struggling it out at the tribunal? Who will do that? Is it the acting national chairman that is not even finding his footing? And if you look at across the states, PDP is trying to resettle themselves. You get it? So, for now, Wike is having the last laugh in this current situation that is ongoing.
Well, let's quickly talk about the citizens now. Let's talk about Nigerians. See, people are really suffering. The times are hard. Like we keep hearing the presidents and other leaders saying, oh, bear with us, be patient and all of that. We know that policies for people to start benefiting from policies, like good policies, it takes like 6 months to 2 years. And it's just barely 2 months after the removal of the fuel subsidy, barely 3 months. Now, people are going through a lot, and issues of palliative and all of that. Like I said earlier on, now we don't have the middle class. It's either rich or you're poor. I think we have a caller.
The greed is what the problem is all about. The selfishness in between the leaders is what is affecting us generally. Because if they leave the greed and focus on the reality, they will do the right thing. But second part is many of them are ready to work. So we have cabal. There's what we call cabal, internet cabal. The cabal we don't know about. We see, but we don't know them. Those cabal are the ones agitating, controlling the leaders we have today. But I pray that what happened in Gabon, Mali, and other countries shouldn't come to Nigeria. But if it comes, trust me, it will be worse than others.
Thank you.
So I would advise that the current leader should do the right. God bless Nigeria.
Amen. Thank you so much. I remember earlier you were saying that the only problem is greed. If
Is
our leaders can drop greed, then the right thing will be done. Good governance will be provided. And I think that's exactly what the caller is saying. Greed. That is the problem. And quickly, I just wanted to respond to the federal government has said that, oh, we have been able to save about 1.6 or 8 trillion naira from the fuel subsidy savings. This is what we have. And during the FEC meeting, that's the inaugural meeting of the Federal Executive Council, the president also urged the ministers to make sure they revive the ailing economy of Nigeria. You and I will agree that we are battling with economic growth, inflation, prices of goods and services in the market right now has doubled. You go to buy something, you see that the price is like over 200% of what it used to be, and with stagnated income, with the current reality that people are faced with, and this has been the issue. But with the current set of ministers that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has inaugurated, he has charged them to make sure they revive the ailing economy. So how do we take Nigerians out of this hardship that they are faced with? And do you have hope in this set of ministers looking at the antecedents?
Well, I think what I will say here quickly is the president is not new to national economy. The president is not new to the challenges of the masses. What I expected him to have done is, before now, you should have a blueprint of what he wants to do. You see, the issue of this oil subsidy removal, I think is a bad timing. Because, look, the truth about the matter is that when there is no infrastructure, nothing seems to work. Look, the system in Nigeria has collapsed.
And I remember him saying that they have been paying humongous amount of money for fuel subsidy at the detriment of education, of health. But with the removal, we've not felt the impact in health, in education. Instead, we are seeing that even though they have come out to say, oh, tuition fee is free, but the charges is what has increased. People now are paying, when you see some of these institutions, the students are resuming, what they are paying is doubled, even more than double of the charges in quotes that they've made reference to. This is what they are going to be paid to. So of what essence people are asking questions. Go ahead.
What is happening in Nigeria presently, that the masses are suffering as a result of the fuel subsidy that was removed. So if our president should look back, he should know that the masses are suffering. It should better the lives of people in Nigeria. So that such thing that happened in Niger and Gabon will not happen here.
Thank you.
That is my contribution.
Thank you so much.
It should better the life of Nigerians here by making fuel to be affordable. The masses are suffering. Salaries are not increased for those for state workers. You pay almost 1,000 naira going to work every day, and your salary remains the same.
That's if you're boarding public transport.
That is it. That is it.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Nigerians want their life better.
I think what is happening is robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's what the federal government is doing. Look, the sincere fact here is, if you want the plight of the masses to stop or reduce, we have to put the infrastructure. We have to put the refineries. We have to do a lot of things to ensure that the country is moving. Now you are charging the ministers. Well, it's a good one. It's a welcome development. But let's watch and see how far they will go. Because whether you like it or not, everything in this country has gone so high. And it beats my imagination. I've never seen something that goes up in Nigeria that comes down. I wonder how they're going to do that magic. That's where it comes. But let's watch and see. We'll still have another some few months. Let's see if between now and December, they say the refinery will be working in December. Let's watch and see. I don't want to begin to criticize them so much, but let's see how it goes. Let's just hope so.
Indeed, let's see how it goes. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis Douglas, for creating time to speak with us. Great analysis. And to our viewers out there, time is actually fast spent. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of National Talk. Indeed, democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. And there is no antidote against good governance. Our leaders must show bad governance, corruption, and imposition, including manipulation of the Constitution. Until we come your way next week with another edition of National Talk, you have a blessed night.